Yes, please. Let's get real about salmon farming. That is, as it's conducted in Scotland, in nets in the sea. The trouble with nets is that they consist almost entirely of holes. Nets are very convenient for the salmon farmers because they keep the fishes in, while everything they don't want simply drifts away through the holes, free of cost and conscience. Fine for the farmers, but the cause of untold harm to ecosystems outside the cages. Every year, a single modern salmon farm rains onto the seabed more than 1,000 tonnes of fish feces and uneaten food laced with in-feed pesticides. About 250,000 tonnes of untreated sewage dumped every year along Scotland's west coast and islands straight into the sea. Seawater becomes enriched, that is, polluted with ammonia and phosphates from salmon farms, arguably a significant cause of now routine algal blooms in summer and insidiously affecting marine ecosystems on a wide scale by nutrient overload causing what is known as eutrophication. The salmon farming industry uses huge quantities of therapeutic chemicals for the control of the numerous pests and diseases that plague the industry. After treatment, for a long time I found this impossible to believe, disposal is straight into the sea. Yes, straight into the sea. Consider salmon being dosed in their cages, the treatment chemical simply dissipating into seawater, and how that must affect wildlife outside the nets. Hydrogen peroxide, box left, is being applied in this picture, but it's a similar method for all the other highly toxic chemicals such as deltamethrin, trade name Alphamax, box right. Deformed and sickly by disease or grazed by parasites, these captives lead a terrible life. Indeed, out of sight and out of mind, huge numbers die. Here's a table of mortality figures for 2020. The average exceeds 20%, to be precise 20.441, with the worst recorded being a shocking 78.3% at Grieg Seafoods Farm in Loch Snizort on the Isle of Skye. As you can see, there are plenty of others that are nearly as bad. These figures are truly appalling. On the left, one of several loads shed on Scottish roads. It might be comical if the whole process weren't so horrible. Right, I knew what the cargo was by the sickening smell as it passed my Highland home. We see plenty of these trucks, transports of death, decay and fish misery. It might surprise you, but we urge you to wake up to fake philanthropy, the cynical bribery of Scottish coastal communities to keep them grateful for the activities of a filthy industry. It works. Salmon farming companies are perceived as being generous. When did you last enjoy real Scottish wild salmon? Scottish Government and scientific data confirm the imminent disappearance of the true Scottish salmon, in no small part caused by farm-generated pests and diseases and, thanks to frequent mass escapes of foreign salmon from farms, genetic introgression. We must all wake up to the callous exploitation of sea, land and people, notably in South America and West Africa. I'm currently preparing a video specifically about this, frankly, atrocious situation. I don't think it's an understatement to call it an atrocity. And to follow that, here's a recent quotation from the Scottish Cabinet Secretary responsible for the regulation of salmon farming. Note that I spoke the word regulation in inverted commas. I'll just read it. The aquaculture sector in Scotland is a significant contributor to our rural and island economies, providing well-paid jobs in some of Scotland's most fragile communities. Such parochial thinking. Tell that to those thousands of people in South America and West Africa who are being robbed of their staple food and livelihoods while reckless pollution has ravaged their culture and environment and made their children sick. And all so that we, the prosperous, may stuff our bellies with a cheap and far from cheerful caricature of a once noble fish and create a few jobs. We, the well-off, including cabinet secretaries, need to appreciate the external costs of our comforts. We all know how our climate is changing, how our global population is growing, and how our natural environment is under ever-increasing pressure. Yes, salmon aquaculture is putting our natural environment under ever-increasing pressure. Continuing the quotation, "The transition to net zero emissions is crucial to reversing these pressures, and we welcome and share the aspirations of the aquaculture sector in achieving this goal. How on earth does salmon farming contribute to saving the planet from climate change?" Weasel words are words or statements that are intentionally ambiguous or misleading. A few are very popular with the salmon aquaculture industry and even Scottish Government spokespersons promoting the, as they call it, sector. Now challenge is used in place of a problem, setback or difficulty, right up to disaster and catastrophe, while sustainable is used whenever an excuse is needed to help a statement seem beneficial to all in describing topics in which disagreement is likely. Finally on our coffeehouse menu, wake up to misinformation. There's a lot of it about, requiring constant awareness and diligent research if it's to be countered. And sometimes it's just blatant.
Scott, are lice from your farms killing wild salmon?
No, I wouldn't say so. I mean, there's a lot of discussion about it, but there's no empirical evidence to suggest that that's the case.
No, Scott. Even when Tom Heap interviewed you 10 years ago, there was a wealth of empirical evidence in the form of scientific data published in reputable journals and government reports, indeed since at least 2005. Where is your peer-reviewed evidence of the contrary? Spoiler, there isn't any. Claims, yes. Evidence, no. Several specialists have conducted research into interactions between farmed and wild salmon and have demonstrated that sea lice populations boom in fish farms, escape and infest wild salmon, causing their populations to crash. This is now beyond controversy, yet the controversy is allowed to continue for the convenience of the aquaculture industry.